Well, welcome back, blade lovers. This old sword's with you once again. Today we're revisiting Trivisa. Trivisa. Gonna call it Trivisa. This is my fourth Trivisa knife. Just got this from White Mountain, and it's my first button lock. I know they've come out with more than one button lock recently. So this is a relatively new drop from White Mountain and Trivisa. And it has no name. It simply has a number. And we're going to call it the button lock, but I guess we'll call it the button lock DOR-04BA. Oh my. Talk about not having a name. Now, some of the others, which I'll bring out in a moment, like this one, is called the Lynx. And this one here is called the Mense. So they have names. And there's another Lynx that I have that I don't have on the table that I did a review on. But let's get going and take a look at this button lock, which appears to have a pretty nice action to it. So it's a flipper. And of course, you can push the button and gravity swing it open. Drop it. Very loose, very free, nicely centered up blade. And look at the handle to blade ratio. That's way out there. And yet that bump at the end of the handle near the pommel gives you plenty of protection against the point. So it's nicely engineered with that regard. Beautiful deep carry pocket clip recessed into the micarta handle, so that it is completely flush. We have nothing sticking up, even though they used a button head type screw. It doesn't matter because it sits below the surface. And we have provision for left-hand attachment of that clip. Very nice. Minimal branding, although the letters are kind of bold there, Trivisa. And all we've got is the blade steel on the other side, which happens to be 14C28N Sandvik steel. That's a nice thing. And working with a new mic, because I had completely finished this video and then found all kinds of background static on it. So I'm using a fairly nice boom mic here, pointed in my direction. Check the volume levels and tested out the audio. It should be okay. Might even be a little better than the other one that crapped out on me. So I like the black blade with the grayish black micarta. Very nicely done micarta with nice milling. No little leftover fuzzies or anything like you get sometimes with micarta when it gets milled. Really nice. No dark spots. Really nice piece of, I think I'm going to call it canvas micarta. It's not quite burlap. It isn't quite that coarse. Got a backspacer out of the same material, looks like either G10, black G10, or more micarta there. I think I can see some strands in there, so I think it's micarta backspacer. All the way through. No provision for a lanyard that I can see, and the scales do appear to detach with just a few screws. The button, get a little bit of stick. I haven't run into more than one or two buttons that have zero stick, at least in the beginning. And I get, if I work really hard, I can get a little bit of wobble there. That's not uncommon because the situation you have with button locks is, let's see if I can demo this, get this down to a low level. You've got a contact area of a larger diameter right there and a thinner, narrower diameter. And I think the amount of contact that that larger diameter in the plunge lock makes secures the blade a little better. Otherwise, what tends to happen when there's pressure is it tends to shift just a little bit. Now, any normal amount of pressure there, I just don't feel it. It's very solid. Been my experience that button locks do tend to break in over time. So jury's out with this. Unless you've got a lot of back pressure on it that you're worried about, you're in there doing a knife fight with it and whatnot, or you're batoning from the wrong direction with it, I don't think it's going to be an issue. Very comfortable ergonomic handle. It's a nice knife, and it's really fairly light as well. So let's see if I can get the tape measure out and give you an overall length on this guy, which happens to be 8 1/4 inches. Let me center that for you. And we got a blade 3.66. I'm going by their specs because those fractions are hard to measure sometimes. But we will bring out the digital caliper, and tell you that it's a 3.8 millimeters blade stock and 0.14 inches with a girth of the handle of 0.54. And yes, it does run on bearings. And let's get a weight. Scale was kind of freaking out before. Let's see. That's better. We've got a weight of 4.54 ounces. 4.5 ounces. I'd say that's reasonable for a knife this size and length. I'm sure there's more featherweight knives, and yes, I do have them. There is weight relieving, as you can see inside. And I was talking about these other Trivisa knives. This is the Lynx. And I think I've got this in another slightly different variant as well. This one comes in S35VN, so it's a little pricier. $68 or $9 on this one, by the way, on the button lock. And over $100, I think, from Amazon on this guy. It's got that fancy titanium sort of flipper tab there. Not flipper tab, but thumb tab and a flipper on this one. Size-wise, it is a tiny bit longer, well, about a 1/2 inch longer than the button lock. Pretty nice smooth drop action on the Lynx. And this one, as I mentioned earlier, is called the Mensae, M-E-N-S-A-E. And it is a very interesting cleaver style with a very, very different front end to it there. I think I picked this up strictly as kind of a novelty. I like the fact that they use that swirl G10 there on the handle. And it's got the 3 holes. A lot of people don't like holes in the blades. And it's got holes in the clip. And it's got holes in the handle. Interesting, but not my favorite. And that one's going to come in a little shorter than the button lock. Well, actually, right out to the tip, it's about the same. Just looks shorter. And that's the thing about cleavers. They can be long and actually look short. Another comparison. We've got the Griptilian. And exactly the same length as a Griptilian, exactly the same blade length. So duplicates with the Griptilian as far as those dimensions go. Handy little knife, though. I think, I could see EDC in this guy. I'd say light to medium use. Certainly fidgety. As I said, everything lines up nicely. And it just became available at White Mountain. There are a couple other flavors of this you may be interested in if you don't like this one. And of course, availability is constantly changing. But I will leave the links for you, so you decide. So there you have it. The Trivisa button lock model DOR-04BA. And if it comes up with a name and you find out and I don't, leave it in the comments. Be well, take care, catch you real soon.